Once in a lifetime, a complete miracle happens. Something strikes you out of the blue. That changes everything. Discovering this simple treatment for stubborn snoring and horrendous. Sleep apnea was one of those miracles because not only did it change everything for my wife and me, it has since helped thousands of people all over the world. And it happened on a day I least expected, as I'll explain in a second. Most amazingly, the stop snoring exercise. Exercises. I'm about to teach you a work. Immediately use them for 3 to 7 minutes today and experience the amazing results. As soon as tonight are effortless, because your snoring happens in the delicate breathing passages loosening up and opening. These parts takes no physical effort. I'm like doing deadlifts in the gym. There's more like chewing on a great meal, so everyone can do these snoring exercises no matter age or physical shape. In fact, you can mindlessly do the exercises anywhere, anytime while stuck in traffic, surfing, the net, watching TV, or wherever suits. You treat even the worst cases of snoring and sleep apnea. I'm my best testimonial, as you'll learn in a second, but thousands of people all over the world have already succeeded using these exercises. I'll also share their stories later, if you like, and because the exercises are so easy and take so little time, you'll stick to them and not give up. Plus, when you experience such immediate result, you'll be extremely motivated to keep on going. Now, I have a question for you. What feeling would you associate the most with snoring? Irritation, shame, anger, sadness, others, or all of those combined? For me, it was shame. Ever since I was a kid, I was plagued and embarrassed by my story. I remember going on a ski trip and keeping my friends awake at night. After the first night, I had a room alone because nobody could stand sleeping around me and how much fun they made of me. Nowadays, it would be called bullying. Sound familiar? I couldn't do sleepovers, and throughout the years, I was even afraid to spend the night with girlfriends because I knew they would never put up with my snoring. After I got married, I became really desperate about my problem. It was actually our problem now. Even worse, my wife was terrified when she witnessed how I stopped breathing in my sleep with a gasp for air like I was drowning half a minute later. This happened several times a night. Years passed before I learned this was a potentially deadly condition called sleep apnea. I knew something had to change right now. I read every book, article, and forum posts. There was about snoring plus watching so many online videos, my eyes turned red. I subscribed to hundreds of paid medical journals to be able to read the official studies on snoring and sleep apnea. I consulted numerous doctors, therapists, and other snoring medical professionals. Simply put, I was becoming nothing short of an expert on the subject. One important thing I learned was that there are many types of snoring, and only a small percentage could be solved by each solution. That's why there are so many snoring solutions to choose from. Because each person's snoring is different, and believe me, I tried it all: sprays, creams, pills, and straps. Haven were those ridiculous devices sold online to put in your mouth and on your head. I even considered surgery, but I later learned despite the huge cost, snoring surgery rarely works in the long haul. Even worse, operations like these can cause serious damage, even brain damage, putting it simply. I tested every Eastern and Western snoring medicine that I can find, but nothing worked for my incurable snoring. In fact, it was NG worse. So I kept on, waking up my wife several times a night with my snoring, keeping her up for hours. Needless to say, this was becoming a real wedge between us and was hurting our relationship. Severely, we fought about everything and held a grudge toward each other, especially in the morning. Frankly, our marriage was on the edge. If we didn't have a young daughter, we probably would have separated. Eventually, we found ourselves leaving the bedroom and taking turns sleeping on the couch. I felt ashamed and frustrated. She was sad and disappointed. Then one day, the miracle happened. Trying to lift our spirits, we took a family trip to Australia, but a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment with the sea view of her Perth's magical white beaches. The mother and daughter shared one bedroom, and I had the other. It was better that way. One morning, I was explaining to my wife what I'd been studying, how snoring is always caused by some kind of block in the breathing passages, and that any treatment was aimed at removing that particular block. All of a sudden, she looked at me and said, "This is what I work on with my students all the time." My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You see, my wife used to be a classical singer, but turned to teaching a few years ago. She explained to me that if you were going to sing, well, everything in and around the breathing passage has to be open and strong. That's exactly what she trained her students to do every day. Side note. Just so you know, you can do the snoring exercises in complete silence. You don't have to do any singing. I was shocked completely by accident. Didn't the woman? I'd been married to 45 years, held the key to solving the problem that had been holding our marriage hostage for so long. That day, my wife taught me the exercises she had been using with her students for years within a week. I slept a whole night without snoring for the first time in decades. And after just 3 weeks of training, I had my last night of snoring, meaning I have never snored again, and those dreadful episodes of sleep apnea were also gone. But then the disappointment hit, since I know how embarrassing snoring is and how great a toll it takes on relationships. I started preaching the exercises to literally everyone like a crazy person. I asked strangers if they had problems with snoring, and if they did, I insisted on teaching the exercises I had been using. It's not, however, so far-fetched as strangers about their snoring problem. Why? Because snoring is one of the most common reasons for couples fighting. Here are some scary numbers about snoring. 30% of women and 50% of men snore. Nearly 1/3 of those who snore also suffer sleep apnea, a potentially deadly condition, and often without knowing it. Snoring and sleep apnea limit your breathing and therefore the amount of oxygen you take in during the night. This often leads to fatal conditions such as stroke or heart attack, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's and other dementia, fatigue and tiredness during the day. Plus, sleep apnea is also the leading cause of obesity. And unbelievably, snoring can even lead to hearing loss of both the snorer and their partner due to the loud noise throughout the night. But to snore is not the most dangerous thing. About 50% of people have a partner who snores. This means that snoring affects almost everyone in one way or another. And having someone keep you up every night with their loud snoring is even more serious than snoring yourself. Lack of good quality sleep causes many of the same symptoms as snoring, but much more drastically. It leads to even deadlier conditions such as high blood pressure, heart attack and stroke, fatigue and tiredness, dementia, and other memory loss, obesity, and early death. Plus, it causes you to underperform like a zombie throughout the day. Over 100,000 car and home accidents every year are blamed on sleep deprivation. Thousands of people die every year because their partner kept them up with their snoring. But most seriously, it robs you of the joy of life because you're just not yourself. People make jokes about snoring, but you see, snoring is not any laughing matter. It's not some annoyance. It can be brushed under the carpet. If you snore or your partner snores, you're putting each other in a life-threatening situation. You may possibly be causing each other an early death. That's why I was so fanatical about sharing the snoring solution I found with everyone. But unfortunately, the simple voice exercises didn't help everyone, just like nasal sprays and jaw straps only work for specific types of snoring. So seemed to be the case with simple voice exercises. So I went on a mission to find a solution that helps everyone snoring and sleep apnea. I was in an ideal position to work this out since I had been studying snoring for years. The exercises to focus on particular problem areas. I found out exactly what worked and what didn't work when it comes to opening up the throat and removing other blocks that cause people to snore. I also discovered ways to do the voice exercises without having to make a single tone. So don't worry. If you don't like to sing, the exercises are completely silent. Since I had spoken about this with so many people, I literally hundreds of people willing to beta test the new exercise. They gave me feedback on what worked for their particular type of story. I then used that to improve those exercises and identify different problem areas. What's more, I discovered 5 types of snoring and how to diagnose and treat each. You see, snoring has always caused by something partly blocking, near narrowing your breathing passages, throat, nasal passages, mouth. Then the soft tissues in your breathing passages flap in the airflow like trash blowing down tight alleys, making the loud noise. But what blocks the breathing passages differs from person to person. So here are the 5 things that block the airflow, causing the 5 type oops of snoring. You may have more than one of these types. 1, throat clamping down, often associated with sleep apnea, to tongue falling into the throat. While sleeping, 3 narrow nasal passages or congestion blocking the air flow for tension in the jaw. Narrowing the air passages more common than you think. 5. The soft palate is too weak or unusually big. This is one of the most common diagnoses for completely unnecessary snoring surgeries. That's why different things work for different people. Nasal strips will do no good. If your snoring is caused by weak tongue muscles and a soft palate, surgery won't help. If your throat is to blame, all these magical cures for snoring you see advertised online and TV take on one of these issues at best. That's why they don't work for most people. And that's why they failed at curing your snoring before. Plus, if they do work for a while, you'll have to keep on using them for the rest of your life. They're not cures, only temporary bandages. And who wants to have to sleep with a nose tapered? Josh trap every night for the rest of their life. Not to mention if you need a CPAP machine for sleep apnea. I, however, have developed 24. Stop Snoring exercise has that each focus on a specific issue of snoring, and the exercises work fast. Whereas it took me 3 weeks to completely treat my snoring. Most people using my new improved in exercises achieve the same thing within a week, and often the very first night. Here's what Pauline shared with me after her husband avoided surgery by using the Stop Snoring and sleep apnea exercises. I'd been threatening my snoring husband of 23 years with laser surgery, something neither of us wanted to risk. When a friend told us about your Stop Snoring exercises, needless to say, I rushed online and got a copy. The exercises do work. They are safe, simple to practice, and proved very effective. Pauline E. Nora, UAE. So here is how you'll completely treat your snoring in 3 steps. Step 1, understand exactly what causes your snoring. It's very easy to find out. I'll give you a few simple questions to diagnose exactly what type of snoring you have. For example, do you snore even when you sleep with your mouth closed? Your partner may need to answer this. If the answer is yes, then more likely than not, your nasal passages are to blame. We'll do a few follow-up questions to diagnose this for sure, and I'll give you specific exercises focused on opening up the nasal passages. Step number 2, learn the exercises tailored exactly to your type of snoring. I'll recommend 3 to 4 exercises based on your type of snoring: throat, tongue, nasal passages, jaw, or soft palate. Each exercise takes about a minute or 2 to do. So you'll have to put aside 3 to 5 minutes per day to completely treat your snoring today. You should put aside an extra 5 minutes to learn the exercises for the first time. I explain them in simple language, and the directions are well illustrated, so they're very easy to learn. Plus, you can also follow along on the audio directions I give you just to make things even easier. Best of all, you can perform the exercises anywhere, anytime, even while stuck in traffic or watching TV. After a few days, they'll become completely automatic. So, doing the exercises really doesn't take time from anything else. And yes, I recommend you keep on doing the exercises for a few days. Even if you don't snore, just to make sure it doesn't reappear. Step number 3, learn the most powerful sleeping positions to prevent snoring. This step is optional. You see, treating your snoring is all about opening up the breathing passages, so they're not blocked by anything, because some people take a few days to treat their snoring. I use my understanding of the subject to develop sleeping positions that will work the very first night. Even before you begin using the exercises, these positions also guarantee you never have to snore again. Even in the extremely rare instances, the exercises don't help or take a long time to work. Again, this is very rare, but I'm a perfectionist and want to make sure you're 100% happy. In one sleeping position, you can lie on your back, the other you sleep on your side. It all depends on what you like. Altogether, this is the most powerful system I know to tackle snoring at its source today. Okay, let's pause a little and allow me to take a wild guess. You're tempted to try the exercises. That makes sense, NSW, to you, that strengthening and loosening up the breathing passages is more effective than invasive surgery or uncomfortable devices. But still, there is this little nagging voice in the back of your head telling you this may not work. Maybe even that this is all just a sham to get your money. Well, first of all, notice that Blue Heron Health News publishes the Stop Snoring Exercises program. They're the leading publishing company in alternative health information, and they have a great reputation to maintain.